The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the Valdoran command ship. Choi Bin stared at her screens, unable to believe what she was seeing. The sensors showed massive energy readings coming from the edge of the galaxy. But that was impossible. Nothing lived out there in the dark void. "Admiral Kang Dae," she called out, her voice shaking. "You need to see this." Admiral Kang Dae walked over to her station. His tall frame cast a shadow over the control panel. Half of his body was made of living crystal like the Valdorans, while the other half had the hard shell of the Threnxi. He was the perfect symbol of the three-species alliance that ruled the galaxy. "What is it, analyst?" he asked. "Energy signatures, sir, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They're coming from the outer rim." Choi Bin's fingers danced over her controls. "The readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like this, Kanga." Day frowned. His crystal eye glowed brighter as he focused on the data. "Pirates? Smugglers?" "No, sir. These ships are huge. Some of them are bigger than our capital ships." She paused, looking confused. "And, sir, the energy patterns. They match something in the old database from 40,000 years ago." The Admiral's shell clicked as he leaned forward. "Show me." The main screen lit up with two energy patterns side by side. They were almost identical. One was labeled Current Unknown Fleet, and the other was marked Historical Human Vessels, Classification, Extinct. "That's impossible," Kang Dae said. "Humans died out during the Great Silence. Everyone knows that." "Yes, sir, but..." Choi Bin pulled up more data. "The computer says there's a 98% match. And, sir, they're heading straight for our territory." Across the galaxy, other ships were detecting the same signals. On the insect world of Threnx Prime, the hive mind buzzed with worry. On the energy planet of Luminos, the light beings flickered in confusion. No one understood what was happening. In the Deep Space Monitoring Station at Sector 7, Lee Hana stood before a massive window looking out at the stars. She was tall and strong, with short black hair and eyes that seemed to hold ancient knowledge. Behind her, dozens of ships waited, in perfect formation. Each ship looked alive, with metal that shifted and flowed like liquid. "Admiral," said her second-in-command, Park Jin, "the Valdoran fleet is moving to intercept us. Should we prepare for battle?" Lee Hana smiled sadly. "No, Jin. We didn't come back to fight. We came back to save them." She turned to face her crew. "Send the message. It's time they knew the truth." Back on the Valdoran flagship, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. The fleet was in full battle formation, ready to defend against what they thought was an invasion. Hundreds of ships spread out across space, their weapons charged and ready. "Contact," shouted the communications officer. "We're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet." "Put it through," Kang Dae ordered. The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a human face. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the impossible sight. Humans were supposed to be dead. They had been gone for so long that most people thought they were just stories. The human on the screen was a middle-aged man with kind eyes. When he spoke, his voice was calm and peaceful. "Greetings, children of the galaxy," Park Jin said. "We are the humans. We have returned from our long journey. We know you think we are dead, but we are very much alive. We left this galaxy 40,000 years ago, not because we were defeated, but because we chose to leave. We went into the dark to learn and grow. Now we have come back because you need our help." Kang Dae found his voice. "You're lying. Humans are extinct. Our history books say so." Park Jin nodded sadly. "Your history books are wrong. We let you think we were dead, because we needed time to become something more than we were. The galaxy was safe then. It is not safe now." "What do you mean?" Choi Bin asked, even though she wasn't supposed to speak. "There are things in the dark between galaxies," Park Jin explained. "Ancient things that destroy civilizations that stop growing. They are coming here soon. We felt them stirring, so we came back to help you prepare." The Admiral's crystal eye dimmed. "Prove it. Prove you're really human." Park Jin smiled. "Very well, But please don't be afraid. On the screen, they watched as Park Jin's form began to change. His skin became like liquid metal, flowing and shifting. His eyes glowed with inner light. Then he changed back to normal, as if nothing had happened. "This is what we became," he said. "We learned to change our bodies, to become one with our machines, to think faster and live longer. We did this not for ourselves, but to protect life in this galaxy." Suddenly, all the sensors on the Valdoran ship went crazy. The human fleet was right in front of them, but somehow the ships were also behind them, above them, below them. It was like they existed in several places at once. "How are they doing that?" whispered a crew member. "We learned to move between dimensions," Park Jin said, somehow hearing the question. "We learned many things in the dark, but we are not here to frighten you. We are here to teach you." One of the human ships moved closer. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The metal surface rippled like water, and strange lights danced across its hull. It was bigger than anything the Valdorans had ever built, but it moved with the grace of a living creature. "Admiral," Park Jin continued, "we would like to meet with your leaders. There is much to discuss and little time to do it. The things that hunt galaxies are already on their way. We have perhaps 1 year to prepare." Kang Day looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, waiting for orders. He had trained his whole life for battle, but nothing had prepared him for this. The humans were offering help, but they were also clearly more powerful than anything in the galaxy. "Why should we trust you?" he asked. "Because," Park Jin said, softly, "you have no choice. Look at your long-range sensors, Admiral. Look at the edge of the galaxy." Choibin's hands flew over her controls. Her face went pale as the sensors showed something impossible. Space itself was disappearing at the galaxy's edge, leaving behind empty nothing. "They're already here," Park Jin said. "The Void Shepherds have found you." The neutral space station Nexus Prime had never hosted a meeting like this one. Representatives from all 3 galactic species sat around a large table, facing the humans who had returned from the dead. The air was thick with tension and fear. SEO Hyun, the Valdoran peace negotiator, kept her crystal body perfectly still. She had been trained to handle difficult situations, but nothing had prepared her for this. Across from her sat 3 humans who looked normal enough, but she could feel the power radiating from them like heat from a star. "Let me tell you the real story," said Kim Tae, a human who introduced himself as a historical keeper. His voice was gentle, but his words hit like hammer blows. 40,000 years ago, we didn't disappear because we were weak. We left because we saw what was coming." He waved his hand, and the air above the table shimmered. Suddenly, everyone could see images floating in space. They showed the galaxy as it was long ago, full of war and chaos. "Back then, 100 different species fought for control," Kim Tae continued. "The galaxy was violent and dangerous, but it was also growing. New technologies were being discovered every day. New forms of life were evolving. It was messy, but it was alive." The images changed, showing the 3 species alliance forming and bringing peace to the galaxy. "Then you 3 species made peace. You ended the wars, which was good, but you also ended the growth. For 12,000 years, nothing new has been discovered. No one has evolved. The galaxy became safe and comfortable and completely stuck. Nam." Jun, another human who seemed to flicker between solid and transparent, spoke up. "We tried to warn people, but no one listened. So we made a choice. We took our entire species and left. We went to the dark spaces between galaxies where only the strongest could survive." Yoon Mira, the 3rd human, stood up. She was small and looked harmless, but when she moved, reality seemed to bend around her. "We spent 40,000 years changing ourselves. We learned to merge with machines, to think in quantum patterns, to exist in multiple dimensions at once. It was painful and many of us died, but we did it because we knew what was coming." "What exactly is coming?" asked the Threnxi representative, his insect voice clicking with nervousness. Kim Tae's expression grew dark. "The Void Shepherds. They are gardeners of the universe, but not the kind you would want. When they find a galaxy that has stopped growing, they destroy it and start over. They have done this 1,000,000 times before." The images changed again, showing galaxies being consumed by absolute darkness. Stars disappeared one by one until nothing remained. "This is what they do," Yunmira said. "They cut away the dead parts so new life can grow. Unfortunately, they consider your entire galaxy to be dead." Seo Hyun finally found her voice. "You're asking us to believe that invisible monsters are coming to destroy us and only you can save us?" "No," Namjoon said, his form solidifying. "We're asking you to save yourselves. We can teach you how, but you have to choose to change." "Prove it," demanded the Lumiari representative, its energy form crackling with anger. "Show us these powers you claim to have." Yunmira nodded. "Very well, but please stand back." She walked to the center of the room and closed her eyes. Suddenly, her body began to change. Her skin became metallic and started flowing like liquid. Her arms stretched out and became weapons that hummed with power. Her eyes glowed bright blue. "This is combat form," she said, but her voice now came from everywhere, at once. "In this state, I can fight 1,000 enemies at once, repair myself from any damage, and exist in several dimensions simultaneously." She raised one arm, and a beam of pure energy shot out, carefully aimed at the wall. The beam didn't just burn through the metal. It made the metal forget it had ever existed. A perfect hole appeared with edges so smooth they looked like they had been polished. "My weapons don't just destroy matter," Yunmira explained as she returned to human form. "They can edit reality itself. They can make things unhappen." The room was silent. Everyone stared at the impossible hole in the wall. "How many of you are there?" Seo Hyun asked quietly. "About 2 billion, Kim Tae replied. "Not very many compared to your populations, but each of us is worth 1,000 of your best soldiers. That's not meant as an insult. It's just what we had to become to survive in the void." "So you're going to conquer us," the Threnxi said. "No," Namjoon replied firmly. "We're going to teach you to become like us. But only if you want to. The choice must be yours." Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the station. A technician burst into the room, his face pale with terror. "Representatives," he gasped. "The edge of the galaxy. Something's happening. Entire star systems are just vanishing." The humans exchanged looks. "They're moving faster than we expected," Yunmira said. "We thought we had a year. We may only have months." "What do you need from us?" Seo Hyun asked. "Everything," Kim Tae said simply. "Your people, your technology, your worlds. We need to turn your entire civilization into something the Void Shepherds will respect instead of destroy. And if we refuse?" Namjoon's form became transparent again. "Then in 6 months your galaxy will be empty. Every star will go dark. Every planet will turn to dust. Every living thing will cease to exist." The Lumiari representative pulsed with fear. "What's the alternative?" "Evolution," Yunmira said. "Fast, forced, and painful evolution. We can teach your people to merge with machines, to think faster, to live longer, to fight beings that exist outside normal space. But it will hurt, and many of you will die in the process." "How many will die?" Seo Hyun asked. "Maybe half," Kim Tae said honestly. "But the other half will become something greater than you ever imagined possible. They will become strong enough to protect not just this galaxy, but others as well." The room fell silent again. The choice was terrible: certain death or possible survival at a horrible cost. "We need time to discuss this with our leaders," the Threnxi representative said. "You have 24 hours, Namjoon replied. "After that, we start the process, whether you agree or not. The Void Shepherds won't wait for you to make up your minds." As the meeting broke up, Seo Hyun approached Kim Tae. "Why did you really come back?" she asked. "You could have stayed in the void and been safe." Kim Tae smiled sadly. "Because we're still human at heart. We couldn't let an entire galaxy die without trying to help. Besides, if the Void Shepherds destroy you, they'll come looking for us next. Running away only works for so long." Outside the station, the human fleet waited in perfect formation. Each ship was a work of art and a weapon of terrible power. Inside them, 2 billion evolved humans prepared for the greatest teaching moment in galactic history. Time was running out and evolution was about to begin. The edge of the galaxy was dying. Lim Wu watched from the bridge of his ship as another star system simply stopped existing. One moment there were planets and moons and billions of lives. The next moment there was nothing but empty space that hurt to look at. "Report," he called to his crew. 17 systems gone in the last hour, replied his tactical officer, a human named Sol, whose body flickered between dimensions. "The Void Shepherds are moving faster than our models predicted." Lim Wu had been fighting extra-dimensional wars for 200 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The enemy didn't just destroy things, they made it so those things had never existed at all. It was like watching reality itself being erased. "Any word from the galactic fleets?" he asked. "Admiral Kang Day's forces are trying to establish a defensive line around the outer colonies," Sol reported. "But their weapons can't touch the Shepherds. Every time they fire, the shots just disappear." That was the problem. How do you fight an enemy that exists mostly outside of normal space? The Valdoran, Threnxi, and Lumiari had powerful weapons, but they were designed to fight things that followed the normal rules of physics. The Void Shepherds followed no rules at all. "Sir," called another officer, "we're getting a distress signal from the colony world of Haven's Rest. They say something impossible is happening." The main screen lit up, showing a Valdoran colony administrator whose crystal body was flickering with panic. Behind him, people were running and screaming. "Help us," the administrator begged. "They're not just destroying our cities, they're making our people forget they ever had families. My own daughter, I can't remember her name." The transmission cut off. Lim Wu closed his eyes for a moment. This was worse than simple destruction. The Void Shepherds weren't just ending lives, they were erasing them from memory and history. "Take us to Haven's Rest," he ordered. "Maximum speed." When they arrived, the planet was half gone. Not destroyed, gone. There was a perfect sphere of nothingness where half the world used to be. The other half was still there, but it was fading at the edges like an old photograph. "Shepherd contact," Sol announced. 3 entities approaching from the void layer. Lim Wu had faced these things before, but they still made his skin crawl. The Void Shepherds looked like shadows of something that might once have been alive. They were huge, bigger than his ship, and they moved through space like it was water. Worse, looking at them too long made you forget things you used to know. "All crew, evolution protocol," Lim Wu commanded. Around him, his human crew began to change. Their bodies became liquid metal, their minds expanded into quantum consciousness, and their weapons merged with their very beings. This was what humanity had become, creatures that could fight impossible enemies in impossible ways. "Engaging," Sol reported as she split herself into 7 different dimensional states. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships didn't just fire weapons, they shot beams of pure concept that could hurt things that didn't technically exist. They moved through folded space, attacking from angles that didn't have names, but the Void Shepherds fought back with weapons of unmaking. Every shot that hit a human ship didn't just damage it, it tried to convince the universe that the ship had never been built. Lim Wu watched 2 of his vessels flicker and fade as reality struggled to remember them. "We're losing," his weapons officer reported. "They're too strong in this dimensional layer." "Then we change layers," Lim Wu decided. "All ships phase shift to combat dimension 7. The human fleet simply stepped sideways out of normal space. From the outside, they would appear to vanish completely. But they were still there, fighting the Shepherds in a realm where thought and matter were the same thing. In this strange space, Sol became a warrior of pure will. She fought one of the Shepherds hand to hand, her thoughts becoming swords, and her determination becoming armor. The battle raged across multiple levels of existence at once. Meanwhile, the galactic fleets tried to help but couldn't even see the fight. To them, it looked like empty space where occasionally explosions of impossible energy would appear from nowhere. Admiral Kang Day's flagship arrived just as Sol made her desperate choice. The Shepherd she was fighting had begun to break through into normal space, which would mean the end of the entire star system. "I can stop it," she transmitted to Lim Wu. but I'll have to disperse my consciousness across the dimensional barrier. I won't be able to come back. Sol, no, Lim Wu began. Tell them we died to save them, she said. Maybe that will make them understand. She exploded outward, her evolved human consciousness spreading like a net across the dimensional layers. The shepherd trying to break through found itself caught in a web of pure determination and sacrifice. It thrashed and fought, but Ansol held on, slowly pulling it back into the void. Both of them disappeared. The immediate threat was over, but the cost was terrible. On his bridge, Admiral Kang Day watched the energy readings return to normal. He had witnessed something impossible. Beings fighting in dimensions his people couldn't even detect, dying to save a world they had never seen. How many humans died? He asked when Lim Wu's ship reappeared. 12, Lim Wu replied, his voice heavy with grief. Including Commander Ansol. She gave her life to seal the breach. Kang Day was quiet for a long moment. His crystal eye dimmed as he processed what he had witnessed. Your people are dying for us. Why? Because someone has... 2, Lim Wu said simply, and we're the only ones who can fight them. Across the galaxy, similar battles were raging. Human ships appeared wherever the Void Shepherds attacked, fighting enemies that most people couldn't even see. The galactic fleets watched helplessly as these evolved humans sacrificed themselves again and again to hold the line. But it wasn't enough. For every shepherd they stopped, 2 more appeared. The edge of the galaxy continued to shrink, and soon the inner worlds would be threatened. We need to start the mass evolution program, Lim Wu transmitted to the human command fleet. The galactic species have to change now, whether they're ready or not. What about their consent? Asked the reply. Lim Wu looked at the fading edge of the planet below, where 500 million people had just been erased from existence. The shepherds aren't asking for consent, neither can we. The time for gentle teaching was over. If the galaxy was going to survive, it would have to evolve or die. And with the Void Shepherds moving faster than expected, evolution was going to have to happen in weeks instead of years. The real war was about to begin, not just against the shepherds, but against time itself. The transformation of the galaxy had begun, and it was terrifying to watch. Oh Sung stood in the command center of what used to be the mining world of Kepler 7, but now looked like something from a nightmare. Massive machines covered the planet's surface, converting rock and metal into weapons that existed in 7 dimensions at once. Production report, he called to his staff. 17 evolution chambers online on this world alone, replied Bei Yan, a human engineer whose body was more machine than flesh now. We're processing 10,000 volunteers per day, but the failure rate is still 40%. Oh Sung nodded grimly. They had known the cost would be high. Taking a normal galactic citizen and turning them into something that could fight Void Shepherds was like trying to teach a fish to fly by, throwing it off a cliff. Some learned quickly, others crashed and died. On the screens around him, he could see similar operations happening on hundreds of worlds. The Valdorans were the easiest to convert. Their crystal bodies adapted well to the quantum consciousness upgrades. The Threnxi were harder, but their hive mind structure helped them survive. The mental changes. The Lumiari were the most difficult since they were already energy beings and the process often scattered them completely. Sir, called another aide, Admiral Ryu Han is requesting permission to begin Operation Vanguard. Oh Sung looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was ready, but so were the new hybrid forces. Ships crewed by evolved Valdorans who could think at light speed. Threnxi swarms that moved as one perfect organism, Lumiari beings who had learned to exist in pure thought. And then there was Ko Yuna. She walked into the command center and everyone stopped to stare. Ko Yuna was the first successful human-alien hybrid, created when a volunteer Valdoran named Jiang Min underwent the evolution process with human genetic material added. The result was something completely new. She looked mostly human, but her skin had a crystal sheen that shifted colors as she moved. Her eyes were pure light, and when she spoke, her voice came from multiple dimensions at once. The shepherds are preparing for their final push, she reported. My enhanced senses can feel them gathering in the void spaces. They're planning to devour the entire galactic core in one massive attack. How long do we have? Oh Sung asked. Maybe 6 hours. They're tired of playing with us. Oh Sung felt a chill. 6 hours to complete the transformation of an entire galactic civilization. It was impossible, but they had to try. Send the signal, he ordered. Begin Operation Vanguard. Across the galaxy, the new hybrid fleets moved into position. They were beautiful and terrible to see. Valdoran ships that grew and changed shape like living things. Thranxi vessels that moved in perfect swarms, thinking with one mind. Lumiari, craft that existed as pure energy held together by will alone. And leading them all were the humans, now so evolved they barely looked human anymore. Their ships were works of art that could rewrite reality with their weapons. Admiral Ryu Han stood on the bridge of his flagship, but stood wasn't the right word. He existed in 17 different dimensional layers at once, his consciousness spread across space itself. Around him, his crew worked at controls that responded to thought instead of touch. All fleets report ready, announced his tactical officer. The shepherds are moving. The final battle began not in normal space, but in the realm between realities where the void shepherds lived. It was a place where up and down had no meaning, where cause and effect could happen backwards, and where thinking too hard about something could make it real. Ryu Han led the charge, his fleet phasing through dimensional barriers like they were made of paper. Behind him came the evolved galactic forces, their minds linked by quantum entanglement networks that let them fight as one massive organism. The shepherds met them with weapons of pure unmaking, reality warped and twisted as the two forces clashed. Stars that were light years away flickered as the battle sent shockwaves through space-time itself. Ko Yuna fought on the front lines, her hybrid nature letting her exist in spaces where neither human nor Valdoran could survive alone. She moved through the shepherd ranks like a dancer, her crystalline weapons cutting through entities that had no physical form. But the shepherds were ancient and powerful. They had destroyed countless galaxies before this one. Their leader, a massive entity that existed as pure entropy, began to break through the hybrid defenses. We're not strong enough, transmitted one of the Thranxi commanders. Even evolved, we can't match their power. That's when Osung realized the truth. They weren't supposed to win this battle. They were supposed to prove something. All units, stop fighting, he ordered. I repeat, cease all combat operations. Sir? Ryu Han's voice crackled with confusion. They'll destroy us. No, Osung said, understanding flooding through him. We're thinking about this wrong. Ko Yuna, you said the shepherds were tired of playing with us. What if this isn't a war? What if it's a test? Ko Yuna's enhanced mind processed the idea at quantum speed. You think they want to see if we can evolve? I think they want to see if we can evolve fast enough to be worth keeping alive, Osung replied. The real question isn't whether we can fight them. It's whether we can become something they respect. Across the battlefield, the hybrid fleet stopped attacking. The shepherds paused, confused by this sudden change in behavior. Ko Yuna made her choice. Instead of fighting, she began to change. Her hybrid nature allowed her to evolve in real time, adapting to the dimensional environment around her. Her consciousness expanded, touching the minds of every evolved being in the galaxy. Suddenly, they were all connected, human and Valdoran, and Thranxi and Lumiari, their thoughts flowing together like rivers joining the sea. The separate species began to merge into something completely new, a galactic consciousness that was greater than the sum of its parts. The shepherds stopped their attack completely. Through Ko Yuna's expanded awareness, Osung could feel their attention like a physical weight. They were watching, judging, deciding. We're not just fighting for survival, Ko Yuna broadcast to every mind in the galaxy. We're fighting for the right to grow, to become something the universe has never seen before. The galactic consciousness reached out to the shepherds, not with weapons but with pure thought. For the first time in the battle, communication was possible. What the consciousness learned in that moment changed everything. The shepherds weren't destroyers, they were gardeners. They cut away civilizations that stopped growing, but they preserved those that could evolve beyond their current limitations. The test wasn't about military power. It was about the willingness to change, to become something greater, to never stop growing. As the galactic consciousness expanded and evolved, incorporating new ideas and new ways of thinking, the shepherds began to withdraw, not in defeat, but in approval. The galaxy had passed the first test, but as Osung felt his own mind joining the greater consciousness, he realized this was only the beginning. Evolution never stopped, and neither would the tests. The Forge of Stars had created something new, and now it was time to see what that something could become. The cosmic arena was unlike anything that had ever existed in normal space. Here, at the edge of reality itself, the final test would take place. Lihana no longer had a physical body. She had evolved beyond the need for one. She existed as pure consciousness representing not just humanity but all life in the galaxy. Around her, the other evolved beings waited. Kangde had become something like a living strategy, his thoughts now spanning star systems as he coordinated defense patterns across multiple dimensions. Park Jin served as the bridge between what they had been and what they were becoming. His consciousness stretched between past and future. Before them stood the Prime Shepherd, the oldest and most powerful of the void entities. When it spoke, reality trembled. "You have surprised us," the Prime Shepherd said, its voice like the echo of dying stars. "Most civilizations fail the first test. They fight us with weapons when they should fight us with growth." Lihana felt the weight of billions of minds. Behind her, all the evolved beings of the galaxy, linked together in one vast network of consciousness. "We learned from our mistakes," she replied. "Humanity spent 40,000 years growing in the dark because we knew this day would come." "Yes," the Prime Shepherd acknowledged. "You were wise to leave when you did. But wisdom alone is not enough. Show us what you have become." The test began not with violence, but with creation. The Prime Shepherd challenged the galactic consciousness to demonstrate its growth by building something that had never existed before. Working together, the evolved species began to weave new forms of reality. Humans provided the framework of quantum consciousness. Valderans contributed their mastery of crystal-based information storage. Thranxi offered their understanding of collective intelligence. Lumiari added their knowledge of pure energy manipulation. The result was a new form of existence. Beings, of living light and crystal and thought that could exist in any dimension, adapt to any environment and grow without limit. They were no longer bound by the rules that had constrained their original species. "Interesting," the Prime Shepherd mused. "But creation is only half of evolution. Can you also choose what not to become?" This was the harder test. The Shepherd showed them visions of power beyond imagination. The ability to control time, to reshape matter with a thought, to rule over lesser species like gods. All they had to do was take the easy path and stop growing. Many civilizations failed here. Choosing power over growth, control over evolution, they became stagnant gods ruling empty kingdoms. But the galactic consciousness made a different choice. They rejected ultimate power in favor of unlimited growth. They chose to remain students rather than become teachers. They chose to keep changing rather than become perfect. "Why?" the Prime Shepherd asked, genuinely curious. "Why refuse the power we offer?" Ko-Yuna, now evolved far beyond her hybrid origins, answered for them all. "Because power without growth is death. We've seen what happens to civilizations that stop evolving. They become beautiful, perfect, and completely dead." The Prime Shepherd was silent for a long moment. Around them, the cosmic arena shifted and changed, showing visions of the deep past, galaxies that had taken the test before. Most were empty now, their civilizations reduced to dust. But a few. "Look closer," the Prime Shepherd commanded. Lihana expanded her consciousness and saw the truth. The successful civilizations hadn't disappeared. They had evolved beyond the need for physical existence and had become something like the shepherds themselves. They were the gardeners of reality, testing new civilizations and guiding the growth of life throughout the universe. "This is what we are," the Prime Shepherd explained. "We were like you once, biological beings who evolved beyond our original forms. We became the caretakers of cosmic evolution, pruning away stagnation and nurturing growth. And now?" Park Jin asked. "Now you join us, if you choose. Your galaxy has passed the test. You have proven that you can grow without limit, create without destroying, and evolve without becoming stagnant. You are ready to help guide other civilizations through their own tests." The offer was overwhelming, to become cosmic gardeners, shepherding the evolution of life across the entire universe. It was everything they had worked toward, and more than they had ever dreamed. But it also meant leaving behind everything they had been. Their home galaxy would continue to exist and evolve, but they would become something far greater and far stranger. "We need to vote," Lee Hanna said. "All of us together." The galactic consciousness turned inward, millions of evolved minds considering the choice. Some wanted to accept immediately. The chance to help guide cosmic evolution was incredible. Others worried about losing their connection to their origins. In the end, the decision was unanimous, but not what anyone expected. "We accept," Lee Hanna announced, "but not all of us. Some will stay to continue evolving in our home galaxy. Others will join you as cosmic gardeners, and some will do both, existing in multiple states at once." The Prime Shepherd made a sound like cosmic laughter. "Typical. You find a fourth option when we only offered 3. Very well. That itself shows the kind of creative thinking we need." The transformation began. Some of the evolved beings chose to remain in their galaxy, continuing to grow and change and explore new forms of existence. They would be the caretakers of their home, making sure it never stopped evolving. Others chose to join the shepherds, their consciousness expanding to cosmic scale as they became gardeners of reality itself. They would test new civilizations and guide the growth of life throughout the universe. And some, like Lee Hanna and Ko Yuna, chose to exist in both states at once, part cosmic gardener, part galactic citizen, bridging the gap between the local and the universal. As the transformation completed, new tests began appearing throughout the universe. Civilizations that had grown stagnant suddenly found themselves facing the choice between evolution and extinction. But now they had guides who remembered what it was like to face that choice. The galaxy that had once been threatened with destruction became a beacon of growth and change. Its evolved citizens explored new forms of existence while its cosmic gardeners helped other worlds find their own paths to transcendence. And at the center of it all, the human contribution remained clear. They had been the catalyst that forced rapid evolution when it was needed most. They had shown that sometimes, the only way to save something was to help it become something completely different. The story ended where it began, with humanity returning to save the galaxy. But this time, they weren't just saving it from destruction. They were saving it from stagnation, from the comfortable death of perfection, from the trap of thinking that growth could ever really end. In the cosmic arena beyond the veil of stars, the newest gardeners began their work. There were always more civilizations to test, more forms of life to nurture, more possibilities to explore. Evolution never stopped, and neither would they.